So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a talk that we usually call the 10 questions that investors are going to ask you about your business. First question an investor wants to know, who are you going to sell this to first? We don't want really vague answers about, well, it's people who buy cars. We want to know which neighborhood, what type of customer you're going to spend the first week targeting. Because the only way you can make a sale is if you call somebody specific up. They buy it and you take money from them. So it's very important that you're able to have an idea, what's my initial niche? Who am I going to sell this to? Why do they need your product or your service so badly? As we've talked about, it's really important that you're able to tell them what is the situation, what is the problem that you're trying to solve. Can't explain that, haven't got an idea yet. What is your value proposition to them? You know who you're talking to, you know what the problem is. How is it that your product or service actually solves that problem? Why is it better than the next best alternative? Good problem, good solution, but you've also got to establish for yourselves and for the investors that it's better than the competition. Now, what happens usually at this point is somebody says, my idea is so good, there is no competition for it. There is always competition for your idea, even if the competition is, I'm just going to keep my money in my wallet, thank you very much. So it's not that you're competing just directly against another product or service. You're competing for a limited resource, which is people's money. How are you going to make money? Even if it's social enterprise, how are you going to get funded? So, you don't really want to give a solution or a product away for free because you're not going to be doing it for very long. So you've got to have an idea, an appropriate business model, something that makes sense. You've run the numbers, and you can actually deliver this at a profit, or you're obviously not going to last. Now, the first 5 are conceptual. It's basically about the idea. Then this is where the rubber starts meeting the road. How are you going to deliver on this? So it's not good enough to have an idea. You have to figure out how you're going to make it real and implement it in a reasonable period of time. For that, you have to really get detailed. And what are the key people, the activities, the resources, the partners you're going to need to deliver? You have to be able to establish what the whole value chain is, what the whole journey is for the customer, so that they can finally get the tangible product or service, and then you can take the money from them and put it back through the value chain, so that value chain keeps on spinning. Out of this is what we call it implementation roadmap. So you have to put some time to this. You really have to think about, if the end view is I'm going to implement and I'm going to need all these resources, well, what are the milestones to get you there? How much time is it going to take? What do I need to do by when if I'm going to have a launch date? And what are the activities and resources I need to assemble? So this is fairly simple project planning. What needs to happen concretely for this to become real? How much money do you need? And very importantly, what are you going to do with it? Any investor worth his salt is going to ask you this. It's no good asking for £1 million if you actually need £2 million to get to the point where you can either get another investor to give you more money, or you've at least made a profit, or you've increased the value of your business. You have to be really clear, how much money do you need? You don't want to ask for too little, because then you're going to go bankrupt and just lose somebody else's money and nobody will give you money for a while again. You don't want to ask for too much money, because if you ask for too much money, you're likely to waste it. And you're also going to be giving a far higher percentage of your company away unnecessarily. So you want to get this number more or less right. You do want to build in, obviously, some slack, because stuff does happen and things get delayed and so forth. But have some idea, how much money do you need and what are you going to do with it? And then they're going to ask you, and you should ask yourselves this, what do we get for it? Anybody who's investing in your company, including yourselves, are in it for something. It doesn't have to be money necessarily. It might be pride, fame, glory, intellectual challenge, whatever it is. But people want to do this for a variety of reasons. And they need to know, if I give you the money, what's roughly going to be my rate of return? Are you going to sell the company on? How do I get my money back? And so forth. But you have to be really aware of what are people's motivations for investing. Have a clear conversation about that so you all know why you're each doing this. And finally, why should we believe you? because you guys have been to business courses in some case, MBA courses, even here. And we all know you can be pretty good bullshit artists, if need be. But investors on the other side have gone through the same experiences, and credibility is really important. Now, the very best way to achieve credibility is the plausibility of your plan. If all these questions hang together, if you've really done your homework when it comes to mapping, you've done your market research, that's a big help. The next big step in credibility is, and I've had this happen last year with a medical device company that had actually had the CE mark for their device. They were already authorized to sell the device. And I asked a very simple question, so can I speak to 3 doctors who've used this device, looked at it, and might want to use it? And they couldn't give me the name of one doctor who was interested in the device. Their whole credibility, therefore, fell completely apart. So it's really important that while you start your plans here in a room, you get out there and you talk to potential customers, you get customer names, so that if I want to invest in your company, I can ring somebody up and say, did these guys talk to you? Is it true? Do you actually want this? Do you need this? Would this make sense? If it was available, would you buy it? That's the next step in credibility. And the final step in credibility is, do you have the appropriate kind of experience that I think you're going to be able to drive this company? Depending on the complexity of your idea, that's a fairly important consideration. And that's essentially the 10 questions. Probably you're not going to be able to answer all these questions right now. So the key thing is at least have a theory about it, because if you have a theory about it, you can go test that theory and you can improve it. And if you don't know, then come up with a plan for figuring it out.